after checking what is the natural formula, specific the formula differentiating the law from other sciences and how to apply the methodology of law to law and to distinguish from other human science, we will apply the natural law formula to some legal issues. Okay, that is the idea. So let's forget about that. Let's focus on the legal law formula. Okay, how it works. Now we have more or less the idea that there are some elements that we have to investigate, and just to check the rules will be very poor analysis. If we have, for example, for your essay, no, you have for your essay, don't just see what is approved by the parliament. Don't you see? Never see just only what kind of case law do you have there. No? Rules. That will be a very poor essay. That will be a very poor paper or analysis. Try to be a good lawyer. Try to be a deep lawyer to see principles, what is just, values, and how to achieve that. No? Everything. Try to see everything. So now we have the whole legal natural law formula. So we should begin checking what kind of beings do we have. What kind of beings could you imagine that there could be? What kind of beings? Obviously, the human being. Any other being? Supernatural being? Yeah. Let me see. Okay. Supernatural animals, okay. Obviously, plants, tree, environment, rivers. Aliens, yeah, there could be aliens. Emma, very good. That could be. And in any case, aliens could be with reason or without reason. If they have reason, will be person. So as human being, we are person. Any other thing? What about God? Well, God. I will explain everything later, but I will show you little by little how it works, because this is a formula that helps you to get some conclusions. That is the idea. So God is a very different human being. No? But is a being, a thing that exists more or less. Angels also could be, yeah. I will not include here angels because they don't have any consequence for the law. Aliens, neither. To have some consequence for the law, aliens should show up in this earth. Yeah. Otherwise, there is no consequence, and so we will not. But these three could be very interesting, no? Because we have the human being with a specific being, plants, nature, trees, well, obviously animals, fish, and so on. Or another very different nature, not rational, and God. And God that is, well, is absolutely different. And all of them have their own possibilities, potencies. We already studied what kind of possibilities the human being has. They have superior possibilities in the intellect and the will, you remember, and our senses, no? Smell, taste, hearing, and so on. And with this, we can do some actions, no? We can hear. We can move ourselves to another place, and that will create habits, good habits or bad ones. Well, this is the human being. No? But at the same time, the fish, what kind of things they can do? Well, they can swim, they can eat, they can reproduce. That is life, no? Yeah, they can born, growth, and reproduce and die. No, this is life. No, but at the same time, there is another that has another kind of things in nature that don't have life. So just is action and passion. You can move and they can be moved, but it's just the possibilities are different. No, they cannot have reason, abstract reason. I mean, they are not ethical beings. No, even you cannot put in prison any lion. No, because he killed the gazelle. No, that is crazy. No, they don't have, are not ethical beings. No, and the possibilities of God is quite different. The possibility of God is a well, a superior being. A superior being is omnipotent. He can do whatever he wants, whatever he wants. No, we have some possibilities. God has every possible possibility. Yeah, so it's omnipotent. It's omnipotent. We use that word. Oh, omni, he can do everything. Omnipotent. Okay, you can see. And it means each one have their own aim. No? What is the aim, the end of the intellect? Knowledge, no? The end of the will, the good things, no? To love, to select, to choose the good things. The aim of our ears, to hear something, sounds, music, and the aim of taste, well, to have food here, tasty food, and so on. And also the possibilities of the fish, reproduction. So reproduction is enable life, and reproduction. Goretti's painting. Let's delete that. Okay, thank you. That is very interesting, no? That is very interesting. What is the aim, or I don't know, of fish? The structure of the fish, the backbone. Well, everything is to swim in a specific way, to move in a specific way. That is the aim. So we have to see each possibility of each being, I mean, in nature, to see what kind of aims we can find there. And the aim of God, the aim, if God has everything, he has properly not aim, The aim is for ourselves, to glorify everything that is good in God, to give glory. But this, he has no need at all. Is in our relationship to God, with God, we have to give glory. More or less, is the human end before God, because he doesn't need anything. He is perfect, all kind of good things. Okay, this is, I understand the first two could be a bit different, a bit difficult. The being not that difficult, but potency is an anthropological and a philosophical analysis of everything. But then we are more get used to the theory of values, legal values especially, Well, what is a value, a worthy thing before God? A good relationship or a bad relationship with God? Obviously, a good relationship, and that is religion. Religion is from Latin religare, to connect again, a relationship between two things that was broken. Twice, second time. Ligare, connection between God and human beings. No, it's a good relationship with God, no? And that is a good thing. It's a good relationship. That is religion, and that is the value of religion. The human being in itself is worthy in itself. It means in itself has a greatest value, a huge value. Spemann will say such a value incommensurable that we cannot call value. We never use the word value, but dignity. Yeah, dignity. That is the value of the human being, dignity. And the intellect, not any kind of knowledge, no? What is the good knowledge? Well, the truth. Not to know fake news, no. That is not a value. Fake news are not a value. Not to know hate speech, not to know many other things, no. But to know the truth. True according to the dignity of everyone. And the will, well, freedom, you know, and the senses, well, music, good music, food, good food, not a bad one. What about the actions? Good actions, not bad ones. Habits, which one? Defects or virtues? Obviously, virtues that are a value. And we have to promote virtues. In nature, what kind of good things we have? Nature itself is a good thing. It's a good thing. So it's thing. It's not a person. It's a thing. You know? Biodiversity. Biodiversity is a value that the law should protect. We are talking, by the way, legal values. No? So everything is a value, a legal value, and everything should be protected. That is the idea. That is the idea. And ecology is a value. And so, and if that is a value, we should protect. Remember the three words that human rights courts use, no? We have to protect, to respect, and the third one many times is a bit different, no? To fulfill, to develop, to promote, but in any case, to increase, more or less, no? As much as we can, as much as we can species we can have, well, better, the best thing ever will be if we have plenty of species, all of them protected, respected. Okay, this is the theory of value. We already mentioned a bit about how to get that related to the ends. Then the first principles of the law. The first principles of law we have here. No, it's very interesting. First one is God. God is a good thing. And the first principle of practical reason is we should do good and avoid evil things. Well, we have two, pro deo, affirmation of God. No? All things that develop this good relationship related to God, God should be promoted. Pro deo, pro deo, pro deo. Then the first principle of human rights that was Tremi wasn't able to find it on internet. Pro hominem, pro human being, pro human being. But we cannot, not only the human being, but also any kind of human being. in many situations. For example, children, pro-children. We will see a bit more about that. Pro-children, that is in Latin, pro-filio. Filio is children. Many other things, no? The true, pro-veritate. Pro-veritate. I'm teaching here in Washington, D.C., a subject that is international communication law. In international communication law, we see many measures that authorities, people put in such a way to promote the access to truth. There is a right in human rights courts related to the right to truth. The right, for example, of the victims of a crime to know the truth of what happened, to know the truth of who is the criminal and what kind of circumstances and what kind of reparation or compensation they have right for asking. Okay, yeah, so you can see that this principle is connected with this right. We will see that. But for now, just pro veritate, no? Things that can promote truth are worthy. We have to promote truth. We have to respect. Pro bonum in general, bonum is good. Bonum is good. About the body, we can say, well, what is worthy? Healthy or a very weak with a lot of illness body? The one that is healthy, no? That's why the first principle of health law is pro salutem. The first principle. We have to promote health. Salutem is health. We have to promote health. And pro actione. That is very interesting. About the actions, pro actione. About the actions. This is a very interesting principle developed by administrative law. This one, pro actione, but administrative law. So in administrative law, they realize that many people, many times, citizens apply or complain or file something against some others or just asking for some service, administrative services. No? And authorities many times say, no, you have to put also here this, and it's not clear what is you're asking, what kind of thing you're asking for. I will reject your application. I will reject your complaint because you need to put this. So in administrative law, there is a principle that says, in case of doubts, if you're not so sure, pro actione, let's act as if the administrative act is valid, is clear, is well done, you should help the citizen, not be an obstacle for citizens. No? Pro actione is very interesting. It's very interesting, that principle. You don't find in other places, but here, in this approach to jurisprudence, you realize that the principles works not just for one part of the law, but for everything. The principle of nulla pena sine lege, no punishment without law, applies also for contracts, for any part of the law. Pro virtute, we have to promote virtues, not to destroy the person, but to build, to construct the person. If nature is a value, principle pro natura, the first principle of environmental law. We have to protect nature and all species, especially some of them, the endangered species. No? You know very well, you have a lot of regulation in Kenya about that. We have to protect biodiversity. No? That is very interesting. And if there are some species that are at risk, they deserve a special protection. That's why there are many prohibitions related to rhinos today that are endangered species, some kind of sharks, and also protect some chimpanzees. So yeah, so precaution. And if we have scarce resources, special protections for them, scarce species, but special protections for them. So this could be a secondary principles. First, pro-nature, then pro-diversity, then precaution. Yeah, be aware. And if they are in danger, a secondary principle, well, special protection for them. Can you see? You see that is also a kind of deduction of the previous things, no? Then it's very interesting to see that all of them creates rights, no? Prodeo and values principles of religious freedom. We obtain religious freedom. We obtain also some rules, but let's go for if everyone deserves the same treatment by the authorities, if everyone has dignity, non-discrimination, because we have something that is equal, no? Same value as a person, not according to our actions, because there could be people that criminals or heroes, no? But all of that according to our nature, we share the same nature, the same value of the nature, non-discrimination, freedom of expression, also related to knowledge, to goods, to pro bono, to protect property, transactions, and so on. If we have to protect health, well, there is a right to health, a right to work, protection also, pro virtute, peace, security, all these kind of things that promote virtues, and standard of life should be secured, and all kinds of environmental rights. Environmental rights are deduced from precisely what is worthy in nature, what we have to protect, and so on. So obviously, this is a methodology. You don't have to memorize every single conclusion of here. You have to memorize the methodology and to understand how it works. And I think that is very, very interesting for you to know this methodology, no? At the end of the day, in easy words, we can say, to understand better the law, we have to understand better the reality, no? The human being, nature, God also, what kind of possibility they have, what kind of things we can do and should be good to do, what is good, what kind of principles we get from that, and then we apply all this knowledge to the rules, to our rights, and we will understand better everything. What other kind of outcome do we have with the formula? A sense of hierarchy. And that is a very interesting thing. There is an order. One of the first idea that I gave you, there is an order in the universe, in reality, no? In the being. And this order in reality is reproduced or has some extension in our knowledge, and also in our will, or should have many times. Is precisely the contrary, and that's why we see that there are not good things, no? Bad things in every society, in our own lives also, no? Good and bad things. But we have to promote the good things, no? The good things So there is a reflection in our lives of this order that is in reality. And there is an order, and that's why there are some rights that should prevail. And now I want to tell you a story, because time ago I remember that I read one speech of John Paul II, in which he said that to some extent, we can say that the main right is religious freedom. Religious freedom, the main one. When I read that time ago, I said, oh, the Pope was wrong. Absolutely wrong. Everyone knows in this world that the first right at all is which one? The first right. Life, the right to life, because without life, we cannot, we don't have any other right. We cannot do any other thing, you know? We cannot survive to sue anyone because they are not protecting our right. No, if we are dead, we cannot sue anyone. So the first right, according to many people, is the right to life. But he says, the Pope, to some extent first, from certain point of view. And then when I discovered this formula and the order that gives this formula, it's incredible. Which is the first right here? Religious freedom is at the top. It's at the top. Yeah, and there is a reason. To some extent is there. No? Why? Obviously, it's clear that the first right that we have to protect is chronologically is the right to life. But the whole legal system is not just for survive. Survive is the first thing, but the whole legal system is not for survive, it's for many other things, no? Now, and especially after the Second World War and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, is to improve the standard of living, many constitutions say, well, to promote happiness, no? From the Independence Declaration of the United States, but many others. My constitution in Ecuador also have a similar phrase, using local traditions, no? In Ecuador. No? They say good life. But in any case, is that? No. It's to something more, human flourishing, welfare, you can name it in many ways. But it's for something more. It's not just for survive. And the best thing, according also to the Greeks, the ancient Greeks believed that there were many gods. For happiness, they say, well, that is the ultimate end of our lives, not happiness. But for happiness, we need to have a good relationship with the gods, because without that, then our fate will be so bad. So we cannot allow that. We have a good relationship. Christians, we believe that the best thing that we can do is have a good relationship here with God and in heaven with God. And the worst thing that can happen is to die being an enemy of God, no? To die, because eternity will be so bad, no? Being the enemy of God, no? So, yeah, so religious freedom, to some extent, the whole legal system as an ultimate end aims, points to religious freedom. That is very interesting, very deep. This Pope said that to some extent, Francis, the right to hope the great right to hope to the greatest things in our lives could be the first of human rights, the principal human right, the first of all human rights, the right to hope. Well, now again is related to religious freedom because he's thinking in hope in God, hope to God, or hope by God, hope with God. You can add many things, no? There is a Lutheran theologians that developed that right to hope in the 50s. I love that. It's Moltmann. Is a good one. I strongly recommend reading him. Well, to some extent, it's the first right. Yeah, as at the actor Pope said, because it's related to aims, the whole aims of our human life, not the immediate aims. No, that is to survive. No, first we have to protect life, and then food, and then shelter, and then bed, and then if you have a human being surviving, we can promote many other things, no? Many other friendship, and many other things. Okay. Now, a question related to the method. Now is methodology, no? How can we detect human rights? This is so as I told you, I did research in African philosophy, in positivism, and in natural law, how people deduce human rights, no? And more or less, this is the way that most people try to get one human right, and this should be protected as a human right because it's part of the human being. So there are several methods. Some of them related to human dignity, some of them to human inclinations, others they will focus their attention in the goods and values, or in the ends and means, or in some principles of the law. In Europe, normally, and also in Africa, the discourse, the argument of human dignity is very strong. It's very strong. I will say in the States, not that much. Not that much in the United States. The argument of human dignity is not so used. They use another kind of arguments. But you can find also in the common law tradition the principle of full protection of the individual. We have to protect, without mention dignity, but individual, we have to give full protection. It's a principle of the common law. Little by little, better developed. No? Or the theological method of Kant. I don't know if you remember that we talked about that. The categoric imperative, you should act according to what you think that could be a law for everyone, or that you can be proud of yourself, or anyone can be proud of doing that kind of things. No, this is to put an end, no? Treat as a person as another way, no? As an end, and not as a mean, not as a tool, no? Because people are ultimate ends, no? Each one. Principle of equality, we can put here also that the inclinations. So the inclinations is a very different approach. Many people, especially followers of Thomas Aquinas, will develop this methodology. They will see what kind of inclinations we have. Inclinations to survive, life, to knowledge, knowledge connected with the potencies. Now it's not so common to find these people trying to understand the inclinations to understand what kind of rights each one has. Normally, there are two ways here, the negative approach and the positive approach. The negative approach tries to detect what kind of duties you have. For example, is survival. We have an inclination to survive. Well, we have a duty. I mean, a duty to survive, yeah, because God puts an inclination in our soul. That is the theological explanation, or the secular explanation. No? Life is good and life is part of happiness, and we have to achieve that. That is an inclination for good, not the bad inclinations. But so the negative approach tries to find the duty, and after checking who has the duty, we'll say the other has a right. So if I cannot kill, it's my duty to preserve the student's life. So you, that are my students, you have the right to life. No, this positive approach is the contrary. They try to see who is the owner of that right, and then, as a consequence, on the contrary, others should have the duty. The human rights movement of the last 17 years is more or less based in the positive approach. No, well, we have these is our desires, and that should be right. No. So the problem with that movement is that everything could be all right if that is good. And you don't find who is the debtor, who should pay that. It's so easy to really, well, I have my desire to be rich, and so I have the right to be rich. But who will pay me? He will give me the money to be rich. No? The state. No? The state has the duty of changing whatever I want. I would say the best thing is to use both approaches, not just one, not just the negative approach, not just the positive approach, but both. Yeah, so in such a way to discover who has the right, who should pay that right. And then you will realize there is effectively one right that you should protect. Both approaches should be used according to my understanding. So good and values, you know a bit about Finis and the 7 basic goods that should protect. He doesn't talk about so much about inclinations, but human dignity, a bit about human dignity. But the whole analysis is based in 7 basic goods, and from them he will begin explaining what kind of rules, principles, right, each one has. But let's Google the same more or less about what is good. Much more. This is a very famous author with a lot of citations all over the world, who wrote an article related how to read the laws, the interpretation of the law. He said, well, we should base the interpretation of the law according to the values of society, well, of what is good, a real interpretation according to him. But also, yeah, how to read the law, well, in connection with the values. That is interesting, no? Ends and means. Yeah. So what kind of ends? Teleology, legal teleology. Many human rights courts use legal teleology to understand what kind of rights people have in their lives. And first principles, primary and secondary principles. We already saw that, no? But how to deduce from principles some rights. It was the last part that I explained. These are the methods based in this but in many authors focus on. So as you can see, many authors, for example, from the being and the potencies get the ends and values and some right. Or it's from the goods, no. Thing is, from 7 goods, you get many rights. And so I will say the best thing is to apply everything. It requires a bit more work, a bit more time of research, but you will get better outcomes, better conclusions, deeper ones, trying to check all of them. And the essay that you should have, that you should do, is how to put everything, facts, the being, the potencies, the ends of a subject, values, principles. Just try to think how it applies to everything related to one topic. Let's put some examples now, more specific examples to see with more detail how it works. So the human being is the first part. I understand that you are not philosophers, and that's why the first part could be a bit challenging. I would say the human being first is an act that can activate the potencies. That is very difficult to explain to people that are not philosophers, but this an act exists that can activate, that can move the potency. That's why we can move our body, we can move our eyes to check here or here or here. But at the end of the day, who activates is the person, and the person is the act of being. And that's why I put the being here in brackets. And the end, well, to actualize, and this act is dignity, The person, not the mode of being, but the person itself, the one who exists, has dignity, has a value that we call dignity. Such an incommensurable value without measure. Such high value that we cannot, we never talk about value, but dignity. So that is a phrase, by the way, it's not my phrase, it's Robert Spemann, a German jurist, said, well, the human being has such an incommensurable value that we don't use the word value, but the word dignity. But at the end of the day, is the value of the human being. We estimate so much the human being is an ultimate end. It's not a tool, it's not a means for anything. It is a value so high. So why is so valuable? What is so worthy the human being? Why is so worthy? And what do you think? That is a question that will be interesting to think about. The good thing in the class, you can read everything, but try to think, try to answer these questions. This exercise is the exercise that will provide you, will give you a lot of skills, intellectual skills to solve many things later. Why is so valuable, so worthy the human being? Or is the same value of a mosquito, of a bug? It's not the same? Or a bird? For some people, it's more or less the same. Rationality or capacity of reason, yeah. Many people will say that. It's just, but I will ask. So if So it means that people that are very, very smart, the value will be more than others that don't have, are not so clever. Or the people that the elders will have more dignity than children because they know more. What do you think? That is the reason. Mhm. First, I will put the act of being. It's not just, I don't know, that you are very smart, the ability of choose good. So first in the intellect. Now, Vicky, you put the will, and that's good. Both. But and I will put human nature. The human nature, you have the intellect, the reason, the ability to choose good things, the will, and probably many other things. Many other things you have also there. But first, I will put the act of being, just because you exist as a human being. You are part of the human being. No? And the existence, the act of being is very special. It's the act of being very different of the being of nature. This can activate, this is anthropologists once again say, well, this always creation of no innovation in the cosmos is always repetition, always the law of gravity, the same law of gravity here and now, and always is rules that everyone should obey in the cosmos. But in the human being, well, it's always creation, always different. No, you will never understand your husband, DJ, or your wife if you are a man. So, act of being first, then human nature, yes. Then I will say that we have many positive specificities and bad specificities, negative ones. Some people are very lazy. Some people are hard workers. No, well, what is worthy? Obviously, the positive specificities, not the negative ones. It increase also the value of the person. No? If you are the best student in the year of the whole university, well, it is something valuable for sure. That not everyone in the United States has. Everyone shares the same nature. Everyone has the same act of being. It's a personal act of being. It's not an act of being reduced to the natural laws and the physical forces. No, it's a creative and something very special. It's not God, but it's not just a action reaction. No, it's not forced. It has freedom. The act of being has freedom. So there are three things that compose the value of the person: the act of being, the nature, and the positive specificity. We can increase the last one, or we can decrease. We can be criminals also, no? But the first and the second one is more or less the same one for everyone. And that's why we get from that one principle, pro hominem, the first principle of human rights. The first principle of human rights commits us to protect, respect, and promote every human being. I mean, the things that are equal in the same way, principle of equality. But not everything is equal. There are something that we are different, no? There are people that with better health and others with less health. With people. So we can deduce from the principle pro homine a secondary principle, the principle of equality. What is equality as a principle? Equality, according to the Greeks, is this. For me, is one of the best definitions. No? One should treat equally what is equal, and unequally what is unequal. Okay? So it's not to give everyone the same. No. If you're a hard worker and another is a lazy worker, you don't have to pay both the same. You should treat equally, because if they are the same workers, well, you same outcome as well, pay the same. Otherwise, there is not the rule. You cannot apply the same rule to things that are unequal. Yeah, that is interesting. I will add until we reach equality. It's more or less contained in the previous one. But yes, because there are many times that trying to promote equality, you promote not good things, but bad things. Or you overprotect some people that are weak or were weak and not now. For example, let's put an example. In many societies, well, there were many issues with women, and that's why there was the feminist movement. I fully agree with the movement, at least with the first waves of the of the movement, because yeah, there were discrimination. But suppose now that with the idea women are still discriminated, and we have to reach equality, to promote affirmative actions, because women are not treated equally. So promoting good actions, no? Affirmative actions. We, for example, in Strasbourg, we will get an affirmative actions to women in such a way that women can study, because the men are imposing the. So you realize, yes, you can check how many women are in your class and how many men. And if we put even an affirmative action to women, what will happen? There will be no men at all. You know the numbers. No? Everywhere in the world, at least in the university I have taught, in many countries I have taught, many countries. Normally, women are more than half of the class, much more, especially in Kenya. And if you even put an affirmative action, there will be no men. There will be absolutely against. So you have to measure. That is the idea. And when you reach equality, okay. Another example. There are people that can walk easily and in the parking lots of any mall, they will have no preference. Instead of that, people with disabilities, like a wheelchair, they have some special parking lots, no? To park very close to the door, the car, in such a way they are unequal. It's not the same. They are unequal. So we have to give them equality, given some action to reach equality. So if we give the good parking lots that are so close to the door, they will reach the door more or less in the same time, because they need more time, that other people that will park very far, but they can walk very fast and get the door. You see? So both we can give this preference to them in such a way that both reach the door more or less in the same time, more or less the idea, no? Obviously, what we cannot do is, well, poor guys, let's give some ladies to do them some massage, no? To give them also a lemonade, no, or a beer, no, with donuts from Day Park. These ladies will come to help this because we have to put some affirmative actions. So these affirmative actions have no sense because it's not just to reach equality. That will be a privilege without justification, not justified affirmative action. So you can see affirmative action you should measure and you should see what are things for, the aim, what are things for, no? The parking lots is okay because they need some help to reach it or more or less still reach equality. Otherwise, it will be a privilege, not an affirmative action. Okay. So when it could be legal obligation, that is another question that is today not that easy to answer. Time ago was so clear. Time ago, well, the principle of equality only operates in the state, in the authorities of the state, because the authorities of the state should give anyone, any citizen, the same treatment. But today, many people use the principle of equality not just for the public authorities, but also in any company, in any association, in anything. And do you have to treat equal everyone because everyone is a human being? I will say it's good to distinguish the moral standard and the legal standard. First idea. Second, it's not true that you have to treat everyone equal, because the principle of equality is also to treat unequal what is unequal. You don't have to treat, for example, men, women, all women as their wives, your wives, or women, all men as your husband. No, the husband is just one, or this one, no? No, to others, very different treatment. You don't have to, if you do give some charity, one poor, no? You have to give the same dollar because the principle of equality, you have all of them in the same position. You should give everyone $1. No. First, that is impossible. But principle, you don't have the duty to give everyone $1. If you want, you give to this because I don't know, because now I have the dollar and I want to give him that dollar. It's not a legal obligation to treat everyone exactly the same. You have some friends, and with your friends, well, you have a special treatment, no? I will help them, and I will not help others because I don't have the obligation to treat one exactly the same. No, that is not. Some things are up to me. No, with my things, I can do whatever I want. The public sector is different. In the public administration, yeah, because that is a thing that is for everyone. But that is different. That is quite different. But in the private sector, yeah, you have your own things. So when equality is a legal obligation, when there is a legal reason, when there is a reason, but we should find the reason. We should find one example. No, if everyone deserves the same treatment because they are human, we share the same nature, there is something life. We have to protect life, everyone the same. We have to protect, I don't know, many other things the same. Fame, reputation, everyone the same, more or less, no? In decisions of the authorities and their citizens, in the relationship with the public sector, public authorities, and also the principle of equality in penalties, no? If we punish some, even for example, in your family, one children for doing this, you can, the other, if there is no justification, well, more or less should be the same punishment or not punishment. No, is that could be more or less related to morality. That's why I began. You have to distinguish the moral standards and the legal standards, and to distinguish that there are things that is up to you and others that not. Sure, that is something to think about. Is very, very interesting. In the reading, you will read a bit more about the principle of equalities. Well, we already talked about positive and negative discrimination. Today, even people don't want to use the word discrimination for the affirmative actions, but it's a kind of distinguish this guy that with this disability we will treat better. That is a kind of distinction. No? Normally, courts use this test. No? Was there a distinction? Is that distinction related to some human specificities, or I don't know, race, where people born, wealthy, welfare of the family, so or many things, no? Is the equal treatment that much right? And if these three questions are solved, okay, they will say there is a negative discrimination that will ban. I will add also the question that I mentioned, no? I will add also, was there any obligation to treat someone in equal or not? Because with our friends, we can do whatever we want. With our money, we can give them in donation for charity, not to everyone exactly the same. No? Some we can say, well, I prefer this to help this guy and not this other. No? Then we deduce the principles pro debilis principle. So if there are some people with disabilities, we should treat them better. This is the principles pro debilis, pro weak. Pro weak, that is the idea. Pro weak. The principle of pro debilis. So who is the weak? Who is the weak? That is the, well, we already said that. No? Who is the weak? Are you weak or not? What do you think about that? What do you think about that? Are you no one? Who are weak? Are you weak in any sense or not? So that is interesting too. There are many definitions of poor people, for example, today in human rights. None of them put more or less this definition that we can use for weak, no? Those who actually lack the means to achieve some end. That is interesting, no? Could be first, there could be a human end, no? For example, human. Normally people are able to see. But some people have some defects, health issues, and they don't see. They are not able to see because an issue, health issue. Yeah, so we can see this disability is a kind of weakness. And if they are weak, we have to give them a special treatment and affirmative action to help them as far as is reasonable, obviously, no? So these are weak, but we can realize probably physically, more or less, there is a kind of homogeneous development in everyone. We have people with disabilities, but just a percent of the society, not all of them. But if we realize, for example, who is weak, for example, related to money, no? The poor or the rich? Well, the poor, obviously, because they don't have means, money, to achieve what they want, no? Probably, and to the full development of the people. Well, that is another thing, no? Welfare, economical welfare. But let's think about in another relationship. If you are buying things in the supermarket, who is the weak part, the supermarket or you? Normally, the consumer is the weak, you know? It's in a position with not that much advantages. On the other side, people trying to sell with some kind of economical power many times, not always, but many times. Well, and the consumer just saying, well, I can buy that. I don't know how it works, that machine, how it works. So it's in a weak position. Who are weak let's see, in your family, your parents or the children? Children, normally, especially minors, no? They don't have the possibility that their parents have. So who are weak in the university or in the state? No? The authorities of the state or the citizens? Well, the citizens, because the authorities have some power and you don't have that power. There is not an equal relationship, but a subordinate in which you have to obey them. So you are the weak part. Okay. What is interesting is to realize that in all of them, we have to give a special protection for the weak, for the devotees. And that's why you have in family law, in case of that, we read this norm to the best interest of the children. In dubio pro children, in dubio pro minor. And that is one of the principles of family law. In consumer law, in case of that, you have to protect consumers. You have to read this norm to the best interest of, for the best interest of consumers. In dubio pro consumer, as you can see, one of the first principles of consumers law. In process, criminal process, no? In case of that, you have to read the criminal code according to the best interest of the accused, because the accused is the weak part before the state. The state has a lot of power. Many times the accused even don't have money to hire an advocate, a lawyer, to defend themselves. So it's in a weak position. So that's why it makes sense to give a special protection to them. And in case of that, we have to protect them. So you can, in copyright also, no? In case of that, you should read the norms according to the best interest of the author. Yeah, because normally they have a weak position. Yeah, so you can see now how principles, if you understand how to get principles, you can apply this to any kind of field of the law, any kind of field of the law, any kind of branch. It's good. Probably you have heard about some of these principles, but now you get the rationality, right? You can, weak could be anyone according the nature, culture also, no? Like culture, women time ago were weak. Now they are stronger. Not always. We have to continue with the feminist movement, but well, it was successful, that movement, no? To some extent.